So ESPN and others reported today that the Department of Defense, amidst an ongoing effort to purge government mentions of diversity, equity, inclusion, removed a website honoring Jackie Robinson's military service. It has since been restored, and their spokesperson, the Pentagon press secretary, said this: we do not view or highlight people such as Robinson through the prism of immutable characteristics such as race, amongst other things. So, look, Jackie Robinson was known for many things, but above all, first and foremost, it was his ongoing courage in the face of racial discrimination. In fact, in addition to crossing the color barrier in baseball, he served in a segregated unit in the Army and in one instance refused to move to the back of the bus, was arrested and acquitted. That matters. That history cannot be erased, it cannot be undone, and it must be recognized to fully understand and celebrate his legacy.
Thanks, Mina. All right, guys, so we got to talk about Disney's ESPN, who apparently have not learned their lesson when it comes to keeping politics out of sports, okay? When people turn on ESPN, I'm trying to watch First Take, not Woke Take. Now, me personally, I don't even watch ESPN. I don't really watch sports like that anymore, even though I used to be a huge sports fan. And one of the reasons why I stopped watching sports is because, again, sports, they went woke, okay? And I just haven't had a reason to return back. The Panthers suck. The NBA is full-blown woke. I'm a Lakers fan, but LeBron James is playing for the Lakers. So, hey, you know, it's like, well, And then also on top of that, UNC football is not good, right? I'm hoping Bill Belichick helps turn around that program, and I'm looking forward to getting back into watching football by watching UNC, okay? And then who knows, maybe the Panthers will turn around. But I'm just saying that me personally, I don't watch ESPN because if I want to watch politics, I turn on Fox News or Newsmax or, I don't know, somebody's YouTube channel, okay? If I want to watch politics, okay? But nope, ESPN, they have decided since Trump is in office that they're going to dive heavy back into making a show about politics because they decided to engage in fake outrage over the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, scrubbing DEI from their website, okay? So the Pentagon went through a process to scrub DEI-related materials from the website in compliance with the executive order from President Trump, and they accidentally erased Jackie Robinson's page, right? There was a story about Jackie Robinson, and it accidentally got erased because it got caught up in the DEI search. Now, clearly, this was done on accident. This was not done on purpose, but the mainstream liberal media, they are race baiting and finding ways to be upset about something that, again, clearly was a mistake.
Removed and restored. The webpage honoring the legendary Jackie Robinson for his military service that was taken down is now back up. Well, this was part of the Trump administration removing stories related to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Well, tonight, KCAL's Nicole Comstock has reaction and response from Pasadena, where the iconic athlete grew up.
He's the pride of Pasadena, immortalized in bronze at the Rose Bowl. Jackie Robinson was raised here, became a four-sport athlete, and a star football player at UCLA, leading into his legendary baseball career, where he became the first black player in Major League Baseball.
I think that's a lot for me, just growing up, just seeing a person of color, even when the movie 42 came out, just, you know, cementing his legacy.
I mean, the dude could do it all, so it's an inspiration to everybody.
That's why some locals were shocked to learn that a webpage honoring the iconic athlete's World War II military service was temporarily removed from the Department of Defense website. This is part of the Trump administration's purge of stories tied to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Pentagon earlier this week saying DEI is dead.
The president and the secretary have been very clear on this, that anybody that says in the Department of Defense that diversity is our strength is frankly incorrect. Our shared purpose and unity are our strength.
The Pentagon also deleted a page honoring the 442nd Combat Regiment, all Japanese Americans serving in World War II. While many of their parents were in internment camps in the U.S., it was the most decorated unit with the most casualties of the war. The Pentagon restored their page after outrage nationwide. Robinson's page was restored today. The Pentagon's perspective: while the Department of Defense loves Robinson and salutes his heroic service, it doesn't highlight service members based solely on characteristics like race, ethnicity, or sex.
Pretty much everybody learns when they grow up. When you try to do too much too fast, you're going to mess up, and that's what's happened here.
Jack Pitney is a professor of government at Claremont McKenna College. He says people have been trying to rewrite history since the beginning of time. But some of Robinson's stories, like his refusal to move to the back of an army bus in 1944, how he broke the MLB's color barrier in 1947, are simply unforgettable.
Arguments about history are actually arguments about the way society is. And again, if you're trying to scrub race out of that discussion, out of that debate, you're going to miss something extremely important about this country.
While many people we spoke with said they admired all that Robinson symbolized in real life and on a web page, they were tired of this country talking politics all the time. And officials later said Robinson's webpage was mistakenly removed because of search terms used to find DEI references on that website. Reporting in Pasadena, Nicole Comstock, KCAL News.
Yeah, so when I first heard about this story, the first conclusion I came to was that no, this was not done on purpose, because it was obvious in regards to why it was done. They probably were doing a broad search of articles, because you can't go through every single article on the Pentagon's website, right? Like that's going to take forever. So what you do is that you use search terms, okay, in order to ding articles that may fit the search terms. And you do that in order to quickly kind of scrub things that make, align with what you're looking to get rid of. And then later you go through a process of figuring out, okay, this is what we want to keep. This is what we want to get rid of. This is what we want to modify. This is what, this is how we want to make certain changes. Now, I don't know, again, how that article was marked in the back end, because you can tag certain articles with certain things. So who knows? Maybe it was tagged as, well, this is a part of DEI, or this is a part of, I don't know, some black initiative or something like that. It's pretty obvious why this happened, okay? Again, does that mean that they were looking to get rid of Jackie Robinson and to erase history, to scrub all the information from the DOD's website about Jackie Robinson? No, that's not what it means. It just means this one article got caught up in a broad search. You identify it and then you correct it and you move on, right? That's it. Okay, that is what happened. But race hustler Stephen A. Is going to use his First Take platform to transform the show into Woke Take, okay? And Stephen A. is doing what he does best, which is to race hustle, right? For as much as this guy wants to pretend to be an enlightened centrist, he is not, right? He is not an enlightened centrist. He is a race hustling liberal who pretends to be sane on certain issues, okay? Because he will admit that he doesn't really know what the hell he's talking about, and he's just going with the flow, right? Because that is the lane that Stephen A. is trying to be in right now, okay? As somebody that wants to be relevant in all fields, now he's showing us who he really is, because again, this take right here from Stephen A. is woke as hell. This is why he's thinking about running as a Democrat.
I don't think it was an honest mistake at all. A matter of fact, I think that there's a few things, not many, not all, but there's a few things this present administration is not being honest about, and we have to call it like we see it. There's this effort, this concerted effort to eradicate DEI, as we all know. And one of the things is you've seen me, Molly, talking about politics. This subject intertwines politics and sports. So if we want to go there, let's go there. They want to eradicate DEI programs and what have you. And what I've said to folks, particularly on the side of the GOP, is very, very simple. It's not so much that you want to eradicate DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. I'll let somebody else argue on behalf of that. What I like to focus on is, how dare you try to ignore the reason for its existence in the first place? Similar to civil rights legislation in 1964, similar to things like affirmative action, similar to things like the Rooney Rule in the National Football League, etc. How dare you try to get away with highlighting why it needed to exist in the first place? It was because of the iniquities of folks in the United States of America, primarily the white power structure that exists.
Okay, and again, this is a conversation that people just don't want to continue to talk about, right? That's the honest to God truth. People do not want to continue to hear about how the white man was bad. The white man was evil. Black people were oppressed, right? People don't want to continue to have the same conversation that we've been having for decades, okay? We've had these same conversation, and race relations have gotten worse in this country. In fact, when this conversation became more mainstream, which happened under Obama, right? And it happened under Obama for a reason, okay? That is when racial tensions in this country started to really escalate. When the race hustlers of America, including Stephen A. Smith, want to continue to have this same tired conversation, keeping it in the forefront of American news, American politics, American cultural conversations, because these people simply do not want to let go of the money train that exists for you to come out here and to talk about how bad white people are, right? There's a lot of money in that, but it does nothing to solve the problem that these people claim that they're trying to solve, which is to end racism. You're not going to end racism, okay? But just because racism is not going to end does not mean that we need to continue to incessantly talk about the past and what happened in the past in order to continue to guilt trip people about things that they had nothing to do with, while pretending like people today who, just relatively speaking, compared to the history of the world, and just compared to, honestly, anybody else living on our planet right now, okay, to pretend as if a certain group of people are victims because of their skin color, because of things that they never went through, they never experienced. But yet right now in this country, black people are better off than any other black person on earth by far. It is not even close. It's not even close. So again, why do we continue to have these conversations saying that, hey, we want to move on, we don't want to continue to talk about this anymore, stop reminding me of slavery and how bad the white man is? That is not erasing history, right? Those are not the same things, okay? Those are two different things.
It is a fact. It is known throughout history that it is a fact. They want to gloss over and erase the need for those things to take place to begin with. We were talking about the National Football League feeling compelled to insert a rule that mandated minorities actually get interviewed for jobs because they weren't getting interviewed for jobs. And so now you see a movement clearly provoked by a lot of folks on the side of the GOP. And clearly this administration has bought into it hook, line, and sinker, where a concerted effort is being made to scrub history. We saw Governor DeSantis in Florida allude to this during his campaign, where he literally tried to bring up there were good components about slavery.
This guy is such a clown, bro. He's such a clown. And again, this is why I'm not falling for his nonsense, bro. His old flirting with MAGA, flirting with the other side. He's a race hustling liberal. This dude is falling for every conspiracy theory, every racial conspiracy theory from the left. This dude falls for hook, line, and sinker. Everybody knows that DeSantis, black people benefited from slavery thing was a hoax. It was a hoax. The curriculum that these people were complaining about in Florida is the exact same curriculum that's in the AP African American history course, right? The exact same thing, but it had nothing to say about it, right? But again, it is a factual statement that black people did learn skills as a result of being enslaved, right? Like that did happen. That is a factual statement to make, okay? And that they used those skills in order to benefit themselves. In fact, you had some black slaves taking care of their former owners after they were released. They were like, no, I'm going back to the plantation, okay? I want to take care of my former master, which is a crazy thing to think about, by the way, right? But again, my point is that Stephen A. is now using what is supposed to be a sports show to now engage in full-blown political discussions, accusing the GOP of being racist, right? That's what he's trying to do, right? That's what he's trying to do. But again, this guy is some enlightened centrist. I'm an enlightened centrist. No, you're not. I'm not falling for his shtick. I'm not falling for it, right? This guy is a part of the problem with the Democrat Party, okay? All of this unnecessary race hustling, it was a mistake. It's not that deep, right? It's not this deep at all. It was a mistake. But again, these people got to take it further. They got to take it further.
This is some utterly ridiculous stuff. I don't give a damn what you think you can find for it. When it involves rape, murder, mutilization, and other things like that, how dare you even try to find something positive about such heinous acts and actions that have taken place in this country's history? And so now we have an administration in place that has seemed to go on about the business of trying to scrub history to the point where you have Jackie Robinson, who integrated Major League Baseball, who served in the United States military and departed with honor. Okay, he was not dishonorably discharged. He was honorably discharged. This is an individual, Molly, I'm reading from here right now, where we're talking about a guy that joined the 761st Tank Battalion, known as the Black Panthers, drafted into military service in 1942, was court-martialed in July of 1944 after refusing an order by a driver to move to the back of an Army bus he had boarded. Yet and still, we see on the website for the Pentagon yesterday, page not found for a vast majority of the day before it was reinstated. And nobody is calling out the president, Donald Trump. I will. And I'm not going to call him names and all of this stuff like stupid folks on the left doing, engaging in incendiary rhetoric. It's unnecessary, it's immature, and it's uncalled for. He's the president of the United States. Treat him with the respect that he deserves, but in the same breath, call him to the carpet for stuff that he's doing. This is the same Donald Trump that looked at folks during the campaign in 2015 and 2024. And he said, what do you got to lose? Okay, well, guess what? He won the popular vote. He won the electoral college vote. He won every swing state, okay? And in the process, his numbers improved from 2020 to 2024 with young blacks, young Hispanics, okay, and young voters, with blacks, Hispanics, and young voters overall. You're forgetting about those people now that you're in office, President Trump? They don't matter now?
No, he literally campaigned on being against DEI, right? I mean, that's what these people don't understand, is that the whole DEI defense is so silly because regular, normal, so-called people of color don't care, right? The only people that care are these bourgeoisie blacks, right? Those are the only people that care. Nobody else cares. So getting rid of DEI is not a betrayal of so-called people of color that voted for him, because it's not like he pretended to be for DEI in the first place. Again, these people are so silly, right? He's so silly. Stephen A is so silly. This is one of the most ridiculous things that I've read all day. This story is ridiculous. Clearly, it was a website. Like, these people really think that the GOP is trying to erase history. Like, how would they do that, right? How would they go about erasing history? How does that work? Especially in the internet era, right? I can understand an argument like this being made during, I don't know, the 1950s, right? The 1940s, before the internet. But again, in the age of the internet, how exactly are Republicans going to go about erasing history so everybody forgets that slavery and Jim Crow and the white man being so evil happened in this country, right? Like, how is that supposed to happen, right? Like somebody please inform me, how is that supposed to happen? Because erasing Jackie Robinson from the DOD website is not going to do that. So if you believe that that's the intention, if the intention is to erase history, this is a really poor job, right? This is not good at all, right? This effort is really bad because I don't think that many people are reading that article, okay, or the website, right? I don't believe that many people read it, okay? I believe that what Jackie Robinson did, the history of Jackie Robinson, is going to live on, okay, in the archives of the internet, right, of books, into history, regardless of what's on the DOD website. So again, like the whole premise that this is being done to erase history is so silly, right? It's so silly. It's an idea that's not even worth entertaining. That's how silly it is. But again, these are silly people who at this point, again, they just want to boohoo, whine, and cry victimhood. They can't give up the race hustle. They can't give up this idea that, oh, the white man is after me. The white man is trying to hold me back. Here's something that 13% of the population needs to realize. They understand. You are not a real threat to whites. Like, let's be real. The white man does not have that much reason to put that much effort into dealing with you. If anything, the white man, okay, is probably worried more about what's happening to his woman, first and foremost, right? That's probably what he should be worried about the most. And also on top of that, in the grand scheme of things, he should be worried about the Asians, right? When you talk about race, if this is about racial superiority, black people are just at the bottom of the priority list. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it all the way 100. So again, I just don't understand it with these people. I really don't. But that's just me.
History doesn't matter. The iniquities of this country didn't matter. The insidious behavior and actions from an historical perspective. Oh, we want to ignore all of that? It doesn't go down like that. Many people on the left, and I'm disgusted with them and what they've done. They lost this election, okay? And they have nobody but themselves to blame because they prioritized things they didn't need to prioritize. But even in the midst of saying all of that, one has to acknowledge that when you look at the actions of this administration and you're talking about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you're equating that with black people, and you're using words like unqualified. Remember, he blamed DEI when a plane crashed, in the immediate aftermath of the plane crash in D.C., colliding with the helicopter, where lives were lost. The first words that came out of President Trump's mouth was DEI. What evidence do you have, President Trump? He had none. Admitted he had none, but still lent itself to DEI. Pete Hegseth.
Again, this guy clearly doesn't know the story about the air traffic controllers, right? And the DEI that resulted in discrimination against whites, the lawsuits. Again, he doesn't know anything. He's just a bloviator. He's just talking, right? He doesn't know anything. He's just saying stuff. He's saying what he heard on MSNBC and on CNN. This is what he's saying. Again, that's what frustrates me about this guy. It's like you're talking so much. You're so passionate, but you clearly don't know. You're just taking anything that you're on CNN and MSNBC and you're echoing it on ESPN now. Fascinating.
Is the head of the Defense Department. He has served our country with honor. I am not trying to knock him or denigrate him in any way. We got to root for our elected politicians or the people that they assign to departments and wish them nothing but the best in America's best interest. But the fact of the matter is, how is he not DEI? He was a soldier. And then he was a host on Fox News on the weekends. And he goes from that to being the head of a Defense Department that oversees more than 3.5 million people. How in the hell do you go from being a weekend host to being the head of over 3.5 million people for the Defense Department of the United States? He happens to be white, and we don't mention DEI when it comes to him. Why not? The biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action and DEI, some would argue, are white women. How come we don't mention that? Why is it always attached to black people? This is the kind of stuff that we're asking ourselves. And on a day like today, it gives us more credence to ask that question because of what happened with Jackie Robinson, who served in our military, drafted, served our country, and for hours upon hours in a day, his stuff was scrubbed, and we're supposed to believe that's accidental. We were born at night, Molly, some of us anyway.
Yeah, so this is woke take, right? This is woke take, guys. Apparently, Stephen A. doesn't understand the reason why people aren't talking about Pete Hegseth being DEI is because DEI is about picking people based off their race, okay? Pete Hegseth wasn't picked because he's white, okay? That wasn't the reason why he was picked, right? Again, you can disagree with his qualifications, but regardless, again, him being picked, he wasn't picked because he's a white man. Now, again, in some cases, right, what we are talking about are people being picked because of their skin color, okay? Like Kamala Harris, okay, which would be a form of DEI. Biden picked her because she was a black woman, right? She checked the race box. Cringe Jean-Pierre, okay? Pete Buttigieg, okay, he checked the LGBTQ box, which again, by the way, goes against Stephen A.'s theory here that, well, you're just talking about black people. Again, he doesn't know what he's talking about. When people talk about DEI, we're talking about any form of identity politics that is used to put people in positions of power that they otherwise would not be qualified for, or when they are much better candidates, right? But again, your main qualification is race and skin color, right? When you're making that your main qualification, okay, when you're using that to screen out people, okay, then yeah, that is a form of DEI, okay? It's a form of DEI. That's what we're talking about, which again, clearly is something that Stephen A. doesn't understand, right? But no, I don't think that this was done on purpose. I think that this was a mistake. I think it's ridiculous to think that Jackie Robinson's page was erased because he's black. No, the page was erased because there were certain keywords that were either present within the metadata of the article or on the article itself that were flagged, okay, as a part of an operation to rid propaganda from the Defense Department's website. But again, Stephen A. is too smooth brain to understand that. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.